Justin, happy Friday before a big old weekend.
Yeah, a longer weekend. It is National Road Trip Day, which is always the Friday before Memorial Day. Last year we had a show. It celebrated National Road Trip Day. I'll give a prize out. Why don't I just give a prize out? If somebody can guess this company, they no longer exist in their entirety. If somebody can guess which company we had on for last year at National Road Trip Day, they played their own game for this day. So anyway, how you doing? You doing anything this weekend?
Grilling and chilling, my friend. Yeah, grilling and chilling. I try to avoid major holidays, cost more money, more traffic. Try to go the weekend before or after.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, how about you?
Smart.
Anything good?
Some yard work. I got to go see a film my wife was in. Probably do a little grilling too. Oh, that looks like a pen or a vape pen or a.
You must not mate, my friend.
I'm still having coffee and working all the way to the end of the day. So,
Justin, there is a lot to cover today. It was a busy week for
and
sure.
A lot to joke about. There's some and to really talk serious about. Which is kind of the beauty of what a lot of these late night guys do. May 22nd in 1992 was actually the very last episode of the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson.
Oh, wow. Very interesting. Quite interesting considering recent events. It was just yesterday. Wasn't that just yesterday? Mm-hmm. It was the last Stephen Colbert.
Yeah, the late night show on CBS is over. Originally started by David Letterman. They shut the lights down on that last night. So anyway, their endings can also result in new beginnings, right?
This is true. I think about that often with our show here. No, just kidding. every week.
Yeah. No, the feeling's mutual, man. Don't worry. But hey, the nice thing is doing this only once a week, not every night, is each show starts and ends, and it's over, and you go on to the next one if you want to. And if you don't have to.
So very true.
Companies have beginning and endings and new chapters.
They do. Some live on forever, but others merge together.
Yes. I like it.
I had lots of options, and I went with a classic for a millennial.
Yes. Yeah, that's definitely hitting a certain generation where a certain generation isn't getting it. But they will all know these two very long standing companies, AvalonBay Equity Residential. Two of the biggest REITs have been around for quite a while. What happened this week that kind of everyone was talking about?
Well, apparently number 4 and number 6 on NMHC's top 50 owner list decided out of the blue to get together and merge to create a superpower, a super saiyan, if you will.
Yeah. Now you did a little multifamily math on that. So what happens when number 4 and number 6 combine? What is that?
Well, when you look at ownership numbers alone, what you get is a supernova, if you will. Greystar gets dwarfed by over 40,000 units. So Greystar now becomes the younger sibling in the world of ownership. They held this title for quite some time. I'm not sure how long Greystar has been at number 1 for ownership, but it's, to my knowledge, it's been a minute.
Right. And I'm going to highlight again. Remember, he's saying ownership. That's the key word. Sometimes if you're quickly passing through, that's the piece there.
Greystar, I believe, will still have let's say you go to units managed. They have over 1 million units managed.
Yeah.
Asset living clocked in at around 450, give or take a couple thousand. And then gosh, I'd have to go down on the list here. Oh my goodness. Equity had about 85. So, still about half of what Greystar manages, but it's really, at the end of the day, it's about ownership. If you don't own it, do you really own it? No.
What is no?
Well, you know what's really important about owning? It is the most important thing about owning something is that you control it. You control its future. So, hopefully a lot of futures will change based off of this. There will likely be hirings, firings, layoffs, but let's focus on the positive side of this, and that is the birth of a new name is likely going to happen.
Yes, it is, and interesting enough, because they definitely marketed this as a merger of equals. So I don't know when people started thinking of names, if that played an impact into that or not.
Yeah. Well, you can check out the details of the merger and who's staying, who's going. One CEO is going to go off and go ahead and go into the pasture, while another one will carry things moving forward. But I was curious what you all thought about new names, and we got a couple folks said, "Hey, here's some names." So Eden Chai gave us the name eBay Residential.
Yeah, I like that. There may be some trademark issues with that they have to
might run into some issues,
but you never know.
It could get dragged out.
Very
It
clever.
could get dragged out for years in the court system like that. Let's see, what else do we have here? We've got A, B, C, and E.
Now, I think I saw this on your feed. I hadn't really seen this, but I feel like Chelsea said you have to say this really fast.
Yes, A, B, C, and E.
Yes, it's almost like the A, B, C, D, and E.
A, B, C, D, and E.
Right?
Sure.
Yeah.
And last but not least, we've got Maya Entrada with AvalonBay. I like that one. I can appreciate it. There are a lot more happening right now, actually. This is like becoming quite the hot topic, if you will.
It's the best thing you've ever done, Eric, on LinkedIn.
It is.
I think. And I mean that in like you hit it at the right time. You asked the right question. What's funny about this logo? I know now Maya didn't make the logo. You and your AI friends made it. What's funny about this logo is that the marketer is going to be so upset because I guarantee that last E will get forgotten to be capitalized. The folks might remember the B, but that last E is going to keep going, and they're going to have to send the copy back and say, no, you have to capitalize that last E in this press release.
This is good. Oh man, Tyler Yates threw one in here as well. He even came up with a whole logo on his own. So shout out to Tyler Yates for that. So if you want to name the merger, go ahead. Go take a look at my post, and we have any good ones. Maybe we'll crown a winner next week.
Yeah, another prize. Another prize. We'll give 2 prizes away and see if someone wins something.
We appreciate it. Well, according to lots of folks, the rent is too damn high.
Yeah, it feels like people have been saying that for a long time. But what happened this week?
Yeah, so there was an article in the New York Times about they've been looking at cost of living issues and egg prices, school lunches, like some of the lower but daily offenders, and they eventually turn their cannons towards rent, right? And they're looking at this trend because really rent is the thing that supposedly breaks your bank account. And back in the day, rent used to be a quarter of your monthly salary, and it started to go up in some places to be a third. And in many cases, for some people, depending on, your your job and your position, it could be a half of your take-home pay, which really burdens the living heck out of a lot of Americans.
Yeah.
And Jay Parsons did have a bit of a chime in on this, but a lot of people are feeling it right now.
Yeah, I mean, people have been tracking this, and there's been other folks that have been posting about some of this throughout. Like Ryan Kang had some graphs in the last quarter that kind of talk about this. But one of the interesting things in the article that was highlighted was from the U.S. Census in 2024 that indicated that basically almost nearly half of Americans feel rent burdened. So that's just that's like all Americans. So half of the population, almost half of the population is obviously renters, and almost like at least probably more, but those are feeling rent burdened, which is kind of crazy because that's how, any extra income you have goes into the economy in other ways, right? And if that income doesn't, if your budget is taken up with living and food, and you can't invest in things, you can't travel, so there's all these other industries that are affected by some of this as well.
Yeah. Well, look, we get it, right? Rent is basically swallowing incomes up. But the challenge is it's not equal. And what Jay Parsons and a lot of folks in our industry try to demonstrate or add additional color to these, glossy headlines that happen is that there's a story of like multiple renter economies, and there's operators that understand how to split the difference here, right? And to offer, breaks on certain units that makes it more affordable, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms versus, someone who's renting out maybe a 3-bedroom, sometimes even a 4-bedroom apartment, if you're student housing, most likely, there's going to be a little bit different take here. So really Class A is where a lot of this burden is taking place. From what we're able to tell, Class A workforce renters, there's subsidized renters, people with roommates, single income households, young professionals, right? Like there's so many ways to slice and dice this data. And the challenge is if we don't slice and dice it properly, then we're just doing a very broad stroke. And in general, we'd all would love rent to go down, but operating income to go up so that everyone gets paid more money and can save more money. But that's just not the way the unit economics are working right now.
Right. Well, and I also think too is, obviously, we're in the business of making money for these to be profitable, but I think just understanding how that affects everything. So it's sort of like, as we have increased rents, people probably there's like a couple studies where they talk about how people are living together longer in like a roommate fashion. So it's like I, as a single 20-year-old, it's going to be the best fiscal thing for me to find a roommate in this apartment in my metro area, and I'm going to probably stay in that kind of a situation much longer than if I go spend that money elsewhere, buy a house, like do all those other things. So it's changing the structures of our of what we knew to be a trajectory, and now it affects that as well. So sometimes it's not even saying is this good or is this bad, but sometimes it's just understanding what it is and what the reality is in terms of what companies need to take note and say this is what the $1,200 doesn't cover most people's living expenses anymore. So now when you're thinking about salaries starting out in urban areas, where does that starting salary have to be? So it affects all these different elements of one's life.
Yeah. So, well, speaking of a few updates that are coming to pass here, we have an update on the housing bill.
Yeah, this hit our box's top of the week, kind of, right? I think.
Yeah. Earlier in this week, the Road to Housing bill. When was this? This was. I'm gonna pull this bad boy up. This was on May 20th, so about Wednesday. We got a nice update here.
On Monday, we saw the industry. There were folks that were called by NMHC or NAA that were called back to DC to re-advocate and to continue those discussions about this, because I was fortunate to be able to have some conversations around this with a couple of folks from Georgia when I went in March. And then there was a big threat that it may not happen even after that work. So additional resources, additional conversations were also happening on Capitol Hill this week. So this is a huge victory. And it's also like, if you work towards something, if you get involved, you can move a needle. And that's what happened here.
Yeah. There were some changes put into the provision for build to rent. It's still a little murky because it still is going to affect, these like kind of middle of the road institutional investors that are not, they don't have hundreds of thousands of units, right? And they're trying to build a business. I know one of them personally based here in Atlanta, and they're part of their business is actually giving money back to renters.
Yeah.
Right. So they're, trying to do this whole build to rent build to rent portfolio, and it's just been very interesting. So the National Multifamily Housing Council and National Apartment Association already pushed hard against this forced sale rule that was put into the provision that would cut our supply by 40 to 72,000 units every year. That was one of the biggest issues there. But the removal of this was that contested piece ultimately. But this was very bipartisan thing here. I mean, it was just voted on 396 to 13.
Right. No, it's a huge thing. And also probably the most urgent. So as you said, there's other things that need ironed out. There's reworks to be done of it. But had that not been removed and went through, it would have created this huge gaping hole in the industry. There would have been a lot of loss, not just people where they live there, but that were displaced. There'd be companies would have lost assets. It would have been really detrimental to a lot of owners, operators, and people that live there.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing worse than losing 72,000 rentals annually. Just puts a lot more pressure on developers to develop, everything from new build to retrofit to putting pressure on renters, because guess what? Now the market's more tight. There's less availability. So just more of a challenge for everyone altogether. And it just doesn't add more housing at the end of the day. This bill doesn't add more housing when you remove build to rent from this. So next up, basically what's going to happen next is that this is going to go back to the Senate. So it came from the Senate, went to the House, going back to the Senate here. I believe Elizabeth Warren and Tim Scott are going to do some massage work on this, and then it will go to the president's desk. Yeah. So that could be as early as June.
Very cool. Very cool.
All right. No good segues here, but
there isn't. I know this is a weird layout.
My echo just went crazy. Can we get here? Can we do?
That's a little better. You can see some of it, right? Basically, Multifamily Insiders had a multifamily salary report that came out. Some of the high levels of it are that, for property management roles, those kind of stayed pretty steady. But some maintenance positions, some leasing positions actually saw growth in those jobs.
Yeah. So you can download this. I was gonna grab a link to this, but I didn't. But that's okay. We'll put it on the put it on the post somewhere
Yeah.
else. But
And if you go to Multifamily Insiders, I'm sure you'll find it there too. But we can make it easier for you. But it is interesting to see that there's an upward trend with with leasing, with maintenance, that those roles are having an increase in their salary. They're vital pieces to the equation, and a lot of this, if you've gone to any conferences in the last couple quarters into last year, there's been more talk around that typical trajectory that we've known in this industry of like, okay, you're a leasing manager, then maybe you get promoted to an assistant or community manager, and then maybe from there they promote you up to a regional manager, and same thing on the maintenance team where you get to be maybe promoted to the lead maintenance tech, and then you get to promoted to a regional. And so it's like following up on this thing, but not really training folks for it, or not really, if you have a really great salesperson who's a great leasing agent, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be the best community manager. So they've said with technology, their new roles have been kind of invented. There I am. I couldn't even see me. I didn't know where I went.
Sorry, friends.
It's okay. So they were saying that like AI technology, other kinds of centralization of certain tasks has created new roles. So you can have like new kinds of leasing roles, new kinds of maintenance roles. And I think that's indicated in some of this data probably as well.
Yeah. Go ahead and feel free to snag yourself the document right here.
Right there.
You can download it from our QR code, but we will move on.
Yeah. And not to be undershadowed by two giant REITs coming together. But this dropped this week too. Fairly big news. I don't know if it's as big as or bigger or the same as what's that apartments.com character, Brad Hartgrove, or Ash Flower.
Yeah.
Merriweather. I don't know. But Jeff Goldblum is a pseudo ambassador through that character of apartments.com, following a similar model.
Brad Bellflower. Yes.
Okay, I was kind of close.
Brad
Bellflower. For Entrada, they have tapped a brand ambassador. I don't know if this gentleman is going to be a character for them. I probably doubt it. If you've seen his Hertz commercials, he's probably not going to be a character, but he doesn't need to be. So he might help Entrada win some championships. I don't know. What do you think about this, Eric?
I think in general it's a classic shtick where you have lots of money and you want an influencer who's recognizable and available to bring better awareness to your organization. So why not hire a Tom Brady who should already have all the money he needs, but doesn't need the money?
Yeah, it's interesting to me because I think, we talk about this in various conferences, is that the general population doesn't really understand this industry or pay attention to this industry the way that like healthcare does, or like law enforcement.
Yeah. I mean, arguably I would rather get like a blue collar worker to be a spokesperson because they're more likely to be renters. Tom Brady owns multiple boats. Why?
Yeah. It's a weird lineup, but my question is it to attract other people outside of the industry to understand the industry better through the eyes of Entrada, or is it just to be more of a lightning bolt in the industry because it's like it's in Tom Brady and everyone knows?
Well, him, and this is the B2B play as opposed to Brad Bellflower. Jeff Goldblum is more the B2C play. He very much so was a character meant to entice renters to use their service.
Right.
If Zillow were to grab Tom Brady, that would make more sense to me. So, I mean, this is going to be kind of interesting. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. We'll be watching. He is a U of M guy, so go blue. That's all I got. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Sorry, my Buckeye friend.
Yeah. I was in Ohio last week.
We're going to be somewhere else in June, though.
Yes, we are. Not in the north, though. In the hot Delta.
It won't be hard. It'll be easy. The big easy.
I was wondering where you were going with that. Okay. Oh, where are you going to bring
your beads? Are you going to bring your beads from?
I think we'll be set. I'll be able to get some new ones.
How are you? How are you going to get new ones, Justin?
Because sponsors are going to be having beads. I guarantee it.
Oh, I hope so.
I won't have to do anything. I'll just collect.
I think the sponsor that has a fan is going to be the winner.
Do you know? I did that with a company I used to work for. Did an event, and I created our logo, and they were that kind of a fan, right?
Yeah.
And they did that, and it worked. They liked it. It was a hit.
You're a biggest fan. Yeah, I can appreciate that. Yeah. I think that's. I like that level of, enticement. But we're gonna
that worked out because it's actually over our faces. Exactly.
Yeah, we're gonna be. I feel like I'm in Tim the Two Man Taylor here.
That neighbor, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're gonna be at where? At Podcastpalooza.
We're gonna be at Podcastpalooza. I probably even have a QR code for that. Hidden here somewhere. Yeah, I do.
And we're sponsored by Chadwell Supply. We're going to be reminding folks about them leading up, and a special surprise: we will have a guest. We will have a Chadwell Supply guest
We will.
Yes, not here, in New Orleans.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a brief guest at the desk, but we'll do this kind of format live on stage for Podcastpalooza.
Oh, I can't wait to cool the audience off.
Yeah, I mean, we close out the show.
That's the way to do it. You'd rather cool the audience off in New Orleans, right?
Yeah,
as opposed to heating them up.
I guess.
Nothing like a cold shower after a.
We don't have to warm the audience up. No one needs to be warmed up in New Orleans.
This is true. Well, we didn't hire Jeff Goldblum for this next one, and neither did RPM Living, but there definitely is a good moment of wonder, the way to cap off this show. So we'll bring it to you here.
Best thing of the week, hands down.
Yeah. Way to be creative, RPM Living. Pooler, Georgia, one of the fastest growing populations in Georgia.
Good to know.
Yep. All right, y'all. Have a great, safe, happy, healthy weekend. Happy Memorial Day. Thank you to all of the troops and families who help take care of us, keep us safe here. And enjoy grilling and chilling.